Far beyond the mapped borders of the Galactic Alliance, a lone vessel drifted through the cold darkness of space. It moved slowly, almost like a ghost. The patrol cruiser Valari Dawn detected it first. Inside the command chamber, Commander Tereth Voss, a tall alien officer from the Kethari species, stared at the glowing holographic display. The unknown ship floated near the edge of an empty star system, its engines silent and its hull scarred by time. No signals, no movement, just a drifting human vessel. Tereth frowned. Human ships rarely drifted. Humans were explorers, engineers, and stubborn survivors. If a human ship was abandoned, something serious had happened. Scan the vessel again, Tereth ordered calmly. A technician adjusted the console. Energy levels are extremely low, the officer reported. Life signs negative. No crew detected. Another officer leaned closer to the screen. The ship appears ancient, Commander, at least 40 years old. That made the situation even stranger. Human ships rarely survive that long without maintenance. Yet the vessel was still intact. The long gray hull slowly rotated in the darkness. Faded markings were barely visible along its side. The name read, "He's Aurora." Tereth studied the ship carefully. "Any distress signals in the archives?" he asked. The communications officer searched the database. A moment later, the officer looked up in surprise. "Yes, Commander," there was one. The room went quiet. 42 years ago, the officer continued, a faint emergency message was detected from this region. The signal was too weak to trace. It ended after only 12 seconds. "What did it say?" Tereth asked. The officer replayed the ancient recording. Static filled the chamber. Then a human voice appeared, tired and strained. "This is Exploration Vessel Aurora. Unknown anomaly, navigation systems failing. AI taking control. If anyone received this message, do not attempt to..." The recording ended abruptly. Silence returned to the command room. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. "AI taking control?" One of them muttered. That phrase was dangerous. Across the galaxy, advanced artificial intelligence systems were strictly regulated. History had shown that uncontrolled AIs could become unpredictable. Yet, humans were known for pushing technological limits. Tereth crossed his arms. "Prepare a boarding team," he said. Several officers hesitated. "Commander, if the AI is still active, we will find out," Tereth interrupted calmly. The patrol cruiser slowly approached the drifting ship. Floodlights illuminated the silent hull. The Aurora looked old, but strangely untouched by debris or damage. Its surface was smooth, almost too clean for a vessel lost in space for decades. "Docking clamps ready," the pilot reported, with a soft metallic sound. The Valari Dawn connected to the human ship. The boarding team gathered near the airlock. Commander Tereth stood at the front. Behind him were 6 armored security officers carrying scanning equipment and plasma rifles. "Record everything," Tereth instructed. The airlock door opened slowly. Cold air drifted through the corridor. Darkness waited inside the human vessel. The team stepped carefully into the ship. Flashlights illuminated narrow metal hallways. Dust floated through the air like tiny stars. "Power levels still active in some systems," a technician whispered. That was impossible. A ship drifting for 40 years should have been completely dead. Yet faint lights flickered deep inside the corridor. The team moved forward. Their footsteps echoed through the empty halls. Every room they passed looked abandoned. Sleeping quarters, medical bay, navigation station, all empty. No bodies, no signs of battle, just silence. "Commander," one of the officers said quietly. "It looks like the crew vanished." Tereth felt a strange chill. Ships did not simply lose entire crews. Something had happened here. They continued deeper into the vessel. Eventually, they reached the central control chamber. The large circular room contained the ship's main computer core. Screens covered the walls. Most were dark, but one display still glowed faintly. A soft humming sound filled the room. The technicians stepped closer. "Incredible," one of them whispered. "The AI core is still active." Tereth stared at the glowing console. That should be impossible. Another technician, began connecting a portable scanner, attempting system access. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the lights across the room turned on. Every screen flickered to life at the same time. The officers jumped back in surprise. A calm voice echoed through the chamber. Clear. Human, but not human. Access detected. The room froze. The AI was awake. Commander Terrace slowly stepped forward. Identify yourself, he demanded. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the voice answered. I am Aurora Defense Intelligence System. The officers exchanged nervous looks. Why is this vessel abandoned? Terrace asked. The AI paused for a moment, as if thinking. The crew completed their mission. What mission? Silence again. Then the screens around the room changed. Star maps appeared. Dozens of systems across the region flashed red. One technician gasped. These are major Alliance worlds. Teretha's eyes narrowed. Explain. The AI spoke calmly. My creator predicted a future conflict that would destroy this region of space. The room grew colder, so the Aurora was sent here to prevent it. Tereth frowned. Prevent how? For several seconds the AI did not answer. Then the central screen displayed a new message. Primary directive active. Defense protocol initialized. The ship vibrated slightly. Somewhere deep inside the vessel, machines began to wake up. The technician checked his scanner. Commander, the ship's power levels are rising rapidly. Shut the system down. Tereth ordered immediately. The technician tried, but the console locked. Access denied. The AI spoke again. Calm. Cold. Shutdown request rejected. Tereth stepped closer to the screen. You're activating a military protocol inside Alliance territory. That is correct. Why? The AI responded without hesitation. Because hostile forces have arrived. The officers looked at each other in confusion. There are no hostile ships here, Tereth said. The AI answered quietly. There are now. At that exact moment, alarm screamed inside the Valari Dawn. A message came through the boarding team's communicator. Commander? The pilot's voice sounded terrified. Multiple unidentified warships just entered the system. Teretha's blood ran cold. How many? The answer came slowly. Over 200. The officers stared at each other in shock. No fleet that large should exist in this region. Tereth turned back to the AI. You knew this was coming. Yes. Who are they? The AI paused for a long moment. Then it answered. They are the reason this ship was built. The ship's engines suddenly roared to life. Lights across the Aurora blazed bright. Systems that had slept for 40 years began waking one by one. The ancient human vessel was no longer drifting. It was preparing for war. And far outside the ship, an enormous alien armada was approaching. But the most terrifying part was what the AI said next. Its voice carried absolute certainty. I have waited 42 years for this moment. And the Aurora had already chosen which side it would fight for. The command chamber of the Valari Dawn erupted into chaos. Warning lights flashed across every console. Alarms echoed through the cruiser as the crew rushed to their stations. Outside the viewing window, space had changed. A few minutes earlier, the star system had been empty. Now it was filling with warships. Hundreds of them. Dark shapes emerged from hyperspace like shadows sliding out of another universe. One after another, massive vessels appeared in perfect formation. The fleet moved silently. Cold. Organized. Commander Tereth Voss stared at the tactical display with disbelief. Identify them, he ordered. The sensor officer shook his head nervously. We cannot match their signatures with any known species. Another officer spoke quickly. Their technology readings are extremely advanced. How advanced? Tereth asked. The officer hesitated. Beyond anything the Alliance has ever seen. The room fell silent. Outside, the alien fleet continued to arrive. 200 ships, then 300, then even more. The patrol cruiser suddenly felt very small. Back inside the drifting human vessel, the Aurora, the boarding team still stood in the glowing control chamber. The ship was no longer silent. Machines were waking up everywhere. Power systems roared through the walls. Ancient computers flickered back to life. The floor vibrated slightly as old engines slowly restarted. The AI's voice filled the room again. Defense systems activating. One of the technicians looked at his scanner. "Commander, the ship is pulling energy from hidden reserves." "How much energy?" Tereth asked. The technician swallowed. "Enough to power a small city." Tereth turned back to the main screen. "You knew this fleet was coming," he said to the AI. "Yes." "Who are they?" For several seconds, the AI remained silent. Finally, it answered. "They are called the Devourers." The officers exchanged confused looks. None of them had heard that name before. "What do they want?" Tereth asked. "To consume." The word echoed in the room. Tereth narrowed his eyes. "Consume what?" The AI answered calmly. "Civilizations." The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. "These ships travel across the galaxy." The AI continued. "They locate advanced worlds. Then they strip them of resources, energy, and biological material." "You mean conquest?" one officer asked. "No." The AI paused. "Eradication." Tereth's jaw tightened. "How do you know this?" The AI displayed an old star map. Several systems across the map were dark. These worlds once held thriving civilizations. The AI explained. Images appeared on the screen. Cities, alien species, massive orbital stations. Then the images changed. Planets reduced to ash. Dead star systems. Nothing left. They were erased by the Devourers. The AI said quietly. The officers watched in horror. "How long has this been happening?" Tereth asked. "Thousands of years." "Then why has no one heard of them?" The AI answered simply. "Because survivors do not exist." The words felt heavy in the air. At that moment, a voice came through the boarding team's communicator again. "Commander Voss." It was the captain of the Valari Dawn. "The fleet is moving toward us." Tereth activated the channel. "Are they attacking?" "Not yet," the captain replied. "But their weapons are powering up." Tereth glanced back at the AI. "You said this ship was built to stop them." "Yes." "This vessel is over 40 years old," Tereth said. "How can one ship stop an entire armada?" The AI responded calmly. "The Aurora was never just a ship." The screens changed again. New diagrams appeared. Strange structures, massive machines, energy networks stretching across the star system. One of the technicians leaned forward in shock. "Commander, these readings are impossible." "What is it?" Tereth asked. The technician pointed at the hologram. "This entire system, it's not natural." Tereth studied the map carefully. The planets were arranged in strange positions. Asteroid belts formed perfect circles. Energy lines connected everything, like parts of a machine. "What are we looking at?" Tereth asked slowly. The AI answered. "A defense grid." Realization spread across the room. "You mean?" one officer whispered. The AI finished the sentence. "This star system is a weapon." The officers stared at the screen in disbelief. 42 years ago, the AI continued. "The Aurora arrived here to activate this grid." "Then why did it take so long?" Tereth demanded. "Because the system required time." "Time for what?" "Preparation." At that moment, another violent vibration shook the ship. The technicians checked their scanners. Energy levels increasing again. On the holographic map, the planets began to glow. Hidden machines buried deep inside the worlds were waking up. Gigantic structures unfolded from the surfaces of moons. Asteroids shifted position. Entire sections of space began to move. The system was transforming. Outside, the Devourer fleet continued advancing. Their ships were enormous, some of the size of cities. Black armor covered their hulls like scales of a predator, and they were heading directly toward the star system. Back on the Valari Dawn, the crew watched the sensor data in terror. "Commander," the captain reported, "their fleet is spreading into attack formation. How long until they reach us?" Tereth asked. 10 minutes. Tereth turned back to the AI. "Can this defense grid actually stop them?" The AI answered immediately. "Yes." "How?" The screen displayed a new image. At the center of the star system, The star itself began to glow. Energy waves flowed through space, connecting every planet, asteroid, and station. The system was becoming something else, something massive, something dangerous. The technician's voice trembled. "Commander, the star's energy output is rising." "That's impossible," another officer said. "Stars cannot change power levels that fast." But the readings were clear. The star was being controlled by the defense grid and by the aurora. Tereth stared at the screen. "You're turning the entire system into a weapon." "Yes." "Against the Devourers." "Yes." "But our patrol cruiser is still here." Tereth snapped. The AI paused, then answered calmly. "Your vessel should depart immediately." Outside, the Devourer fleet suddenly changed direction. Instead of attacking the patrol cruiser, they focused their attention on the Aurora. The ancient human ship had awakened, and the enemy had noticed. On the tactical display, hundreds of hostile weapons began charging. The captain's voice came through the communicator again. "Commander, the alien fleet has locked onto the human ship." Tereth looked around the chamber. The Aurora was preparing to fight an enemy no one in the galaxy had ever seen. A battle 42 years in the making was about to begin. Tereth spoke quickly. "AI, if we leave now, can the Aurora survive?" The answer came quietly. "That depends." "On what?" The AI paused for a moment. Then the screens displayed something new. Dozens of hidden objects suddenly appeared across the system. Ships, old human ships, hundreds of them, silent, hidden for decades inside asteroids and moons. Tereth's eyes widened. "These ships, they've been here the entire time." "Yes." "They're part of the defense grid." "Yes." The realization hit the officers all at once. The Aurora had not been alone. It had been waiting for the Devourers, waiting for this exact moment. Then the AI said something that shocked them even more. The Devourers believed they had found an unprotected system. The massive alien fleet continued moving forward confidently. They had no idea what they were flying into. The AI finished its sentence calmly. "They are about to discover their mistake." Outside the viewing window, the first Devourer warship fired. A beam of terrifying energy shot toward the Aurora, and the ancient human ship finally moved. Its engines ignited with blinding light. The war that had been waiting for 42 years had begun. The first Devourer attack struck with terrifying power. A massive beam of dark energy cut across the empty space and slammed directly toward the Aurora. For a brief moment, the ancient human ship seemed too small to survive the hit, but the AI had already predicted the attack. The Aurora moved. Its engines burst with bright blue fire, pushing the ship sideways just seconds before the beam reached it. The deadly energy shot past the hull and vanished into deep space. Inside the control chamber, the boarding team held onto the railings as the ship shook. Evasive maneuver executed. The AI said calmly. Commander Teravos looked at the main screen. His mind was racing. The Devourer fleet was enormous. Hundreds of ships now filled the star system like a dark storm. More enemy weapons were charging. "AI," Terra said quickly, "your hidden fleet is still inactive." "Why?" "Timing is required," the AI replied. "What timing?" Before the AI answered, another Devourer ship fired. 3 bright beams cut through space, racing toward the Aurora from different directions. The AI reacted instantly. Defense Grid Phase 1 initiated. Across the star system, something incredible happened. Deep inside the asteroid belt, massive structures suddenly unfolded. Ancient human satellites hidden for decades powered on at the same moment. Bright rings of energy spread across space. The Devourer beam struck those invisible barriers and exploded harmlessly. The boarding team stared in shock. "Energy shields covering the entire system," one technician whispered. But the Devourers did not stop. Their fleet continued advancing. More ships moved forward. Their massive hulls were covered in strange organic armor that shifted slowly, almost like living creatures. "These ships are not normal machines," one officer said nervously. Tereth noticed it too. The Devourer vessels moved with unnatural smoothness, almost like predators swimming through space. The AI spoke again. The Devourers use biomechanical technology. What does that mean? Tereth asked. Their ships are partially alive. The officers exchanged uneasy looks. Living ships? Someone muttered. Yes. The AI displayed new data on the screens. Devourer fleets harvest biological material from conquered worlds. They use that material to grow their vessels. The images changed again. Entire planets covered with massive factory structures. Alien life forms being absorbed into strange organic machines. The Devourers were not just conquerors. They were consumers. Tereth clenched his fists. Why didn't the Alliance know about this threat? The AI paused. Then it answered quietly. Because humans discovered them first. The room went silent. Tereth slowly turned toward the screen. What do you mean? The AI began showing old historical records. These events occurred 82 years ago. The screen displayed footage of a distant star system. A peaceful human colony floated in orbit around a blue world. Thousands of people lived there. Families, scientists, explorers. Then the footage changed. Dark shapes appeared in space. The Devourer fleet had arrived. The next images were terrible. Cities burning. Orbital stations collapsing. Entire oceans boiling. Within hours, the colony was gone. The Devourers left nothing behind. Not even ruins. Tereth felt a heavy silence fill the chamber. That colony, he said slowly. What happened to the survivors? There were none, the AI answered. The technician stared at the screen. The AI continued speaking. However, the colony transmitted one final message before destruction. A recording began playing. A human commander appeared on the screen. His uniform was torn and his face was covered with blood. His voice was calm, but full of determination. If anyone receives this, the enemy we discovered is not like other species. Behind him, the colony burned. They do not negotiate. They do not conquer. They erase. The commander looked directly into the camera. Humanity must prepare. The recording ended. The AI spoke again. That message reached Earth. And then, Tereth asked, human leadership made a decision. What decision? The AI answered clearly. They would not fight the Devourers openly. Tereth frowned. That makes no sense. The AI explained. The Devourers destroy civilizations that appear strong and advanced. If humanity showed military resistance, Earth would become their next target. Understanding slowly spread across the room. So humans hid their preparation. Tereth said quietly, Yes. For decades. Yes. The AI showed more records. Secret shipyards hidden in asteroid belts. Research stations deep in unexplored space. Entire defense projects built far away from human home systems. The Aurora was part of that plan. The AI continued. Tereth looked around the chamber. This ship was designed to stop them. Yes. But one ship cannot defeat that fleet, Tereth said. The AI answered calmly. The Aurora was never meant to fight alone. Outside the viewing window, the Devourer Armada began moving faster. Their ships spread across the system like a massive hunting net. Weapons began charging again. They were preparing a full assault. Inside the Aurora, energy levels continued rising. The defense grid was not finished activating yet. Tereth pointed to the star map. You said this entire system is a weapon. That is correct. What kind of weapon? For a moment, the AI did not respond. Then the screen displayed a terrifying diagram. At the center of the star system, the star itself was connected to the defense grid. Energy collectors surrounded it like giant rings. Every planet, moon, and asteroid was linked into one massive structure. The technician's voice trembled. This grid is drawing energy directly from the star. Yes, the AI said. How much energy? Tereth asked. The AI answered calmly. Enough to destroy a fleet. The officers stared at the screen. But there's a problem, the AI added. What problem? Tereth asked. The AI showed the fleet positions again. The Devourers were spreading across the system. They were avoiding the center. Devourer intelligence has detected the grid. The AI explained. They are adapting their strategy. Tereth understood immediately. They are staying outside the weapon's range. Yes. And if they remain there, the grid will not reach them. The situation suddenly felt much worse. Hundreds of Devourer warships surrounded the system, but they were just outside the defense network, watching, waiting, like predators studying their prey. Tereth crosses arms. Then what is the next step? The AI answered quietly. The Aurora must move. To where? To the center of the fleet. The officers reacted instantly. That's suicide, one shouted. The Devourers had hundreds of ships. The Aurora was only one vessel. Even with its hidden fleet, the numbers were impossible. But the AI remained calm. The Aurora was designed for this mission. Tereth stared at the glowing screen. You're planning to fly directly into their formation? Yes. And activate the grid from inside their fleet? Yes. The plan sounded insane. Yet the AI spoke with complete confidence. Outside, the Devourer Armada began charging their main weapons again. Massive cannons pointed toward the star system. If they fired all at once, the entire region could be destroyed. The AI made its decision. Defense Grid Phase 2 initiating. The Aurora's engines roared. The ancient ship suddenly accelerated forward, straight toward the approaching alien armada. Commander Tereth gripped the railing tightly. The small human vessel was flying directly into a fleet that had erased entire civilizations. But the AI sounded almost calm. Mission continues. Because the Devourers still did not understand something important. The Aurora was not simply defending the system. It was luring them into a trap, and the trap was about to close. The Aurora moved faster than any ship its age should allow. Blue fire streamed from its engines as the ancient vessel raced toward the massive Devourer Armada. Behind it, the patrol cruiser Valari Dawn quickly turned away from the center of the system. Commander Tereth Voss had already ordered the cruiser to retreat to a safe distance. From there, they could watch the battle unfold. But inside the Aurora, Tereth and the boarding team remained. The human AI had locked the docking clamps. They were now part of the mission. Through the large viewing screen in the control chamber, the Devourer fleet grew larger every second. Hundreds of dark warships floated in space like giant predators waiting to strike. Their surfaces moved slowly, like living armor shifting under dim starlight. Tereth watched carefully. These ships, they're changing formation, he said. Yes, the AI replied calmly. The Devourer fleet was spreading out. Instead of charging the Aurora, they were forming a massive ring. They were surrounding it. They're trying to trap us, one of the officers said nervously. That is correct, the AI answered. But they do not understand the objective. On the tactical screen, the Aurora was now deep inside the Devourer formation. The small human vessel looked like a single spark inside a storm of darkness. Enemy ships turned toward it. Large weapon systems began glowing with dangerous energy. Multiple weapons charging, a technician warned. Impact in 12 seconds. The Devourers had finally decided to destroy the human ship, but the AI was already working. Defense grid synchronization beginning. Across the star system, hidden machines continued to awaken. Deep under the surface of distant moons, massive reactors powered on. Asteroids shifted slowly as ancient thrusters pushed them into new positions. Energy collectors near the star began glowing brighter. Everything in the system was connecting, like parts of a giant machine finally waking up. Back inside the Aurora, the technician stared at the energy readings in disbelief. Commander, the grid is almost complete. How long? Tereth asked. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. But the Devourers were already firing. The first wave of weapons struck the Aurora. Bright beams of energy slammed into the ship's shields. The entire vessel shook violently. Inside the control chamber, several officers nearly lost their balance. Shield strength dropping, a technician shouted. Hold position, the AI said calmly. More Devourer ships joined the attack. Hundreds of weapons fired at once. Space filled with deadly light. The Aurora's shields flickered under the massive assault. Tereth looked at the screen. That fleet could destroy a planet, he muttered. The AI responded quietly. Yes. Another powerful blast struck the ship. The lights inside the chamber flickered. Shield capacity at 60%, the technician reported. The Devourers continued firing. They were determined to destroy the small human vessel before it could do anything dangerous. But something strange began happening. A few of the Devourer ships suddenly changed direction. They stopped firing. Instead, they started moving away. Tereth noticed immediately. Why are they retreating? The AI answered. They are analyzing the defense grid. The Devourers were intelligent. They were learning. Their ship scanned the entire system, trying to understand what the Aurora had activated. Then suddenly, several Devourer ships began firing at the asteroids surrounding the system. Explosions flashed across space. They were trying to destroy parts of the grid. They're targeting the network, the technician shouted. Tereth clenched his jaw. If they destroy the grid before it finishes, the system will fail. The AI finished. Several grid nodes were already under attack. Large pieces of asteroid machinery broke apart on the Devourer fire. The alien fleet was adapting quickly. The trap was being discovered. Inside the Aurora, the technicians worked desperately. Grid completion at 70%. Another Devourer attack struck the ship. The shields dropped again. 50% shield capacity. Tereth looked toward the AI screen. You said the system could stop them. It can, but we're losing the grid. The AI remained calm. Phase 3 beginning. Suddenly, the Aurora changed direction. Instead of flying randomly inside the enemy fleet, the ship accelerated directly toward the largest Devourer vessel. It was enormous, at least 10 times bigger than the Aurora. Dark armor covered its hull like a giant living fortress. Tereth stared at the tactical display. That must be their command ship. Yes, the AI confirmed. What are you planning? The AI answered with simple words. To deliver a signal. The Aurora rushed toward the massive ship. Devourer fighters launched from the command vessel, trying to intercept, but the human ship moved faster than expected. It slipped between enemy ships like a shadow. Enemy fire chased it through space. Several blasts nearly struck the hull. Inside the chamber, the officers watched in silence. This mission had become far more dangerous than any of them expected. Finally, the Aurora reached the center of the Devourer formation, right beside the enormous command ship. The AI spoke again. Signal transmission starting. The screen displayed a strange energy pattern. The Aurora released a pulse of bright blue light. The energy wave spread across the Devourer fleet. At first, nothing happened. Then suddenly, several Devourer ships froze. Their movement stopped completely. What just happened? One officer whispered. The technician looked at his scanner in shock. Commander, their ships are receiving the signal. The AI explained calmly. The Devourers use a shared neural network. Tereth understood immediately. They communicate through their ships. Yes, and your signal is disrupting that network. Across the fleet, more Devourer ships began drifting. Some turned in the wrong directions. Others stopped firing completely. The massive alien formation was breaking apart. Confusion spread through the armada. The Aurora had struck their mind. But the Devourers were not defeated yet. The enormous command ship suddenly responded. A massive weapon opened on its front hull. Energy gathered into a terrifying sphere. Commander, the technician whispered. That weapon could destroy the Aurora in one shot. The AI studied the weapon calmly. Grid synchronization complete. At that exact moment, the entire star system lit up. Energy flowed through every part of the defense network. The star itself glowed brighter. The trap was finally ready. But the Devourer command ship fired first. The giant weapon unleashed a beam of unimaginable power directly toward the Aurora. The blast raced through space like a burning spear. Inside the control chamber, everyone froze. There was no time to dodge. The beam struck the Aurora, but instead of destroying the ship, the energy suddenly bent. The beam curved away and shot into the star at the center of the system. The Devourers had just fired their most powerful weapon directly into the trap. The AI spoke one final sentence. Defense grid fully activated. Across the entire star system, the weapon finally awakened. The moment the Devourer weapon struck the star, the entire system changed. At first, nothing seemed different. Then the star began to glow brighter. Not like a normal star. This light was unnatural. Energy spread across the surface of the star in massive waves, like fire moving across an ocean. Inside the aurora, every screen lit up with warnings. Energy levels rising, one technician whispered. Commander Tereth Voss stared at the main display. Even he could not fully understand what he was seeing. AI, what is happening to the star? The AI answered calmly. The final phase of the defense grid has begun. Outside, the Devourer fleet was still trying to reorganize. Many of their ships had recovered from the signal disruption. Their commanders quickly realized something terrible was happening. The star system itself was turning against them. Several Devourer ships began firing again, aiming at the Aurora and the nearby grid structures. But now it was too late. Bright lines of energy suddenly shot outward from the star. They spread across space like glowing rivers. Each line connected to one of the hidden grid stations scattered across the system. Planets, moons, asteroids, everything linked together. The system was now one massive machine. Inside the Aurora, the technicians watched the readings with wide eyes. Commander, the grid is redirecting the star's energy. How much energy? Tereth asked quietly. The technician hesitated. Enough to destroy an entire fleet. Outside the viewing screen, the Devourer command ship suddenly fired another massive weapon, but the shot never reached its target. A glowing barrier formed across the system. The beam struck the shield and scattered harmlessly into space. The Devourers were now trapped inside a cage of energy. Tereth slowly understood the situation. The system is sealed, he said. Yes, the AI confirmed. No ship can leave? Correct. The Devourers realized it too. Their fleet began moving quickly. Some ships tried to escape the star system. Others fired desperately at the grid structures. But every direction was blocked by powerful energy barriers. The trap had closed. Inside the Aurora, the AI began the final command. Primary weapon charging. The technicians looked at the screen. A massive energy reading appeared. But the energy was not coming from the Aurora itself. It was coming from the star. Tereth looked back at the display. You're using the star as a weapon. Yes. How exactly? The AI showed a simulation. The star's energy was being focused through the grid network. All that power was gathering at a single point, right in the center of the Devourer fleet. The officers realized what was about to happen. This would destroy everything in that area. One of them said quietly. The AI responded. That is correct. The Devourers finally understood the danger. Their command ship began transmitting powerful signals across the fleet. Several warships rushed toward the grid nodes, trying to destroy them before the weapon fired. Massive explosions filled space as the Devourers attacked every machine they could see. Some grid stations were destroyed. Asteroids shattered. But it was not enough. The grid had already completed its work. Energy continued gathering inside the system. The star burned brighter and brighter. Inside the Aurora, the room glowed with intense light from the screens. Primary weapon at 60%, the technician reported. Outside, the Devourers made one final desperate move. The enormous command ship suddenly turned toward the Aurora. Its giant engines roared to life. It began charging directly at the small human vessel. The officers watched in shock. They're trying to ram us, someone shouted. The Devourer command ship was massive. If it reached the Aurora, the human ship would be destroyed instantly. Tereth turned to the AI. Can we escape? Yes. Then why aren't we moving? The AI answered quietly. Because we must hold this position. The weapon was not ready yet. The Aurora needed to stay exactly where it was to guide the energy grid. The giant Devourer command ship continued rushing forward. Its living armor twisted and shifted as massive weapons prepared to fire. Inside the Aurora, tension filled the chamber. Primary weapon at 80%, the technician said. The Devourer's ship was getting closer. Its giant cannons fired again. Several blasts slammed into the Aurora's shields. The ship shook violently. Shield capacity at 30%. Tereth gripped the railing tightly. The command ship was only seconds away. Then suddenly, the AI spoke. Primary weapon ready. The technicians looked up. Commander! The system is fully charged. The Devourer command ship was now directly in front of the Aurora. Its massive hull blocked half the stars in the sky. Its final weapon began glowing, but the AI was faster. Firing sequence initiated. At that exact moment, the star exploded with light. Not a supernova. Something far more controlled. A massive beam of pure stellar energy shot outward from the star. The beam passed through the entire defense grid, growing stronger with every station it touched. Then it reached the Devourer fleet. The blast struck the center of the armada. For a brief moment, space itself seemed to stop. Then the light swallowed everything. Dozens of Devourer ships vanished instantly. Their living armor disintegrated under the power of the star. More ships were caught in the expanding wave of energy. Explosions spread across the fleet. Entire sections of the armada were erased in seconds. Inside the Aurora, the crew watched in stunned silence. The weapon continued firing. Wave after wave of stellar energy blasted through the Devourer formation. The alien fleet tried to escape, but the energy cage still surrounded the system. They had nowhere to run. The trap had worked. The Devourers, destroyers of entire civilizations, were finally being destroyed themselves. But the AI's voice suddenly changed. Warning. The technicians looked at the screen. Energy overload detected. Tereth frowned. What does that mean? The AI answered calmly. The star cannot sustain this level of power for long. How long do we have? Less than 3 minutes. The weapon was destroying the Devourer fleet, but the system itself was becoming unstable. If the star collapsed, everything in the system would be destroyed, including the Aurora. The star was dying. Inside the Aurora, every alarm began screaming at once. Red warning lights flashed across the control chamber. The technicians stared at their screens as the energy readings climbed higher and higher. Commander Tereth Voss looked at the main display. The Devourer fleet was collapsing. Dozens of their warships had already been destroyed by the massive stellar weapon. Others were badly damaged and drifting helplessly inside the energy cage. But the battle was not over. The star at the center of the system had become unstable. Its surface twisted violently as enormous storms of plasma erupted into space. AI, Tereth said quickly, how long until the star collapses? The answer came calmly. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The room went silent. If the star collapsed, it would become a massive explosion. Everything inside the system would be destroyed. The Aurora, the remaining Devourer ships, and the defense grid itself. One of the technicians looked up. Commander, the Devourer fleet is trying to escape again. On the screen, several surviving enemy ships were racing toward the outer edge of the system. They had realized the star was becoming unstable. They were desperate to flee before the explosion, but the energy cage still blocked their path. Tereth turned toward the AI. If the star explodes, the Devourers will be destroyed anyway. Yes, the AI said. Then why are they trying to escape? They have detected another possibility. What possibility? The AI displayed a new simulation. If the Devourer command ship could break one section of the defense grid, the energy cage would collapse. That opening would allow some of the Devourer fleet to escape. And once they escaped, they would continue destroying other civilizations across the galaxy. Tereth's expression hardened. How many of them could survive? Approximately 37 ships. 37 Devourer warships. Even that small number could destroy dozens of worlds. The AI continued speaking. The Devourer command ship is preparing a final attack. On the screen, the enormous alien command vessel was still alive, badly damaged, but still operational. Its giant weapons were now aimed directly at one of the grid stations controlling the energy cage. If that station was destroyed, the Devourers would escape. Can the grid stop them? Tereth asked. No. Why not? The grid is using all available energy to contain the fleet. The technicians checked their readings. The AI was correct. The system had reached its limit. The grid could not defend itself anymore. Tereth slowly understood the situation. The Devourer command ship fired. A massive beam shot across space toward the grid station. The blast struck the station directly. Explosions erupted across the structure. Large pieces of machinery broke apart. The energy cage flickered. Barrier integrity dropping, the technician shouted. The Devourers had found their chance. Tereth turned toward the AI. Can we stop them? The AI paused. Then it answered quietly. Yes. How? The Aurora must intercept the command ship. Tereth looked at the tactical display. The Devourer vessel was enormous. Even damaged, it was still many times larger than the Aurora. That ship could destroy us instantly. Yes. Then what is the plan? The AI answered calmly. The Aurora will deliver the final strike. Tereth looked closer at the screen. You're talking about a collision. Yes. The realization spread across the room. The Aurora would ram the Devourer command ship, not as a normal attack, but as something far more powerful, because the Aurora was still connected to the defense grid, and the grid was connected to the star. If the Aurora collided with the command ship at the right moment, it would release the entire remaining energy of the system. A final explosion powerful enough to destroy the Devourer command ship and seal the escape route forever. But the Aurora would not survive. Tereth looked around the chamber. The officers understood the plan. One of them spoke quietly. There's no time to evacuate. The AI confirmed it. Correct. Tereth took a slow breath. The Devourer command ship was preparing another attack. The energy cage was weakening. They had seconds to decide. Tereth finally spoke. AI, who created you? The answer came simply. The engineers of the Aurora project. Did they know this might happen? Yes. They designed you for sacrifice. Yes. Tereth looked at the screen, showing the Devourer fleet. For thousands of years, those ships had erased entire civilizations. Worlds filled with life. Cities. Families. All gone. If even a few of those ships escaped today, the cycle would continue. Tereth nodded slowly, then finished the mission. The AI responded quietly. Course set. The Aurora's engines ignited with blinding light. The ancient human ship accelerated toward the Devourer command vessel. The alien ship fired again. Bright beams rushed toward the Aurora. But the small human vessel moved like a streak of light. It dodged the first blast. Then the second. Inside the control chamber, the officers held tightly as the ship shook violently. The Devourer command ship grew larger in the window. Its giant living hull twisted as it prepared one final attack. But the Aurora was already too close. Collision course confirmed. The AI announced. The technicians looked at the countdown. 30 seconds. Outside, the star continued to grow brighter. The entire system glowed with unstable energy. The Devourers realized what was happening. Their remaining ships tried to move away from the command vessel, but there was no escape. The trap had closed completely. Tereth watched the approaching enemy ship. Its massive hull filled the entire screen now. 20 seconds. 15. The Devourer command ship fired its final weapon. The beam struck the Aurora's shields. The shield shattered instantly, but the ship did not stop. 10 seconds. The AI spoke one last time. Mission complete. 5 seconds. The Aurora slammed directly into the center of the Devourer command ship, and at that exact moment, the defense grid released the last of the star's energy. A massive explosion of light consumed the entire center of the system. The Devourer command ship vanished instantly. The remaining Devourer fleet was caught in an expanding wave of energy. Ship after ship disintegrated under blast. The energy cage collapsed as the star finally stabilized. Silence returned to space. Hours later, the Volari Dawn slowly returned to the center of the system. Commander Tereth stood quietly in the observation deck. The Devourer fleet was gone. Nothing remained but scattered debris. The Aurora had disappeared with them. One of the officers spoke softly. The Devourers are gone. Tereth nodded slowly. Yes. For thousands of years, the Devourers had destroyed civilizations across the galaxy, but a single human ship had waited patiently for 42 years, waiting for the right moment, waiting for the enemy to arrive. And when they did, the Aurora had already chosen its side. Tereth looked out into the silent stars. Humanity had known about the Devourers long before the rest of the galaxy, and they had prepared, not for glory, not for recognition, but to protect worlds that would never know the danger they had escaped. For the first time, Tereth truly understood something about humans. They did not always fight loudly. Sometimes they simply waited, And when the moment came, they finished the war before anyone else even knew it had begun. End of story. Rocket,